Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and we are joined by Tim Picciott, the Liberty Advisor, and today we're going to go into the housing bubble, the housing collapse. Who knows when that'll happen? We'll go into that, and also the idea of a lot of people who are unemployed being unable to pay the rent and ending up on the streets, as we recently reported on. As we can see here, 32% of U.S. households missed their July housing payments. Articles like this: looming evictions may soon make 28 million homeless in the U.S., expert says. And by the way, that is about 9 out of 100, so just under 1 in 10 people homeless, and that's when the moratoriums expire. And we have gotten recent news as well, as it says, Kudlow says next round of coronavirus relief will include $1,200 checks and extension of eviction moratorium. And we're going to go into that and more today, but first make sure to hit that like button, check the links below, and share this on social media to get around the shadow banning. Of course, join our new newsletter at www.imbanned.com. All you need to do is put in an email. We won't spam you. And obviously, you can find us on Flote.app, BitChute, Minds, LBRY. We are completely viewer funded, so check the links below for that, as we are completely demonetized here on YouTube. So anyway, let's get into this. We did see this recent article pop up that really makes us think about where the housing crisis really is going. As it says from Forbes, America's next housing crisis, how the pandemic is pushing renters to the brink. And obviously, it goes without saying, you have all these people deferring on their mortgages. You got Airbnb completely collapsing because no one's getting involved in tourism. Everyone's staying inside their house, but they're not able to pay for their house. It's really insane what we're seeing, and we're seeing a lot of people talk about, a lot of politicians talking about raising property taxes, in some cases as high as 32%. But as this article out of Business Insider that I referred to earlier says, Kudlow says next round of coronavirus relief will include $1,200 checks and extension of eviction moratoriums. So obviously that puts off the potential of all these people going homeless. But as it says, White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow on Sunday said that the next round of coronavirus relief will include more checks to Americans and extend the federal eviction moratorium. And then it says there's a $1,200 check coming that's going to be part of the new package, Kudlow said during an interview with State of the Union on CNN. On Friday, the federal eviction moratorium ended, and this weekend, the extra $600 unemployment benefit ended as well. But okay, so they're saying we're going to keep giving you checks. They're saying don't worry about the eviction moratoriums, we'll extend that. It's like you can keep extending that, keep creating the problem, coming in as a solution. I mean, the amount of debt we're dealing with, the amount of printing we're dealing with, the amount of, this is really long-term absolutely tragic, because this isn't going to just end smoothly. They can either keep extending it and spending insane amounts of money and destroying the economy and destroying the markets further, or, and by the way, completely communistic, basically taking over people's property for them, and they're not making any profit, etc. And then on from their cash flow, and then on top of that, you have all these checks being printed and just giving all these people free money, quote unquote, which sounds great if it weren't for the fact that the government created the problem in the first place, and they're like, oh, sorry about ruining your life, here's a $1,200 check. I mean, it won't end well. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, sorry we destroyed your job, your business, your family, your house. You can't afford anything. Well, but here's $1,200, and don't worry, 4 months later we've got another $1,200 for you. So if it's any consolation. And when it comes to Larry Kudlow, I was watching him at 14 years old, coming home from school and watching CNBC. Huge Larry Kudlow fan, huge. And then in 2004, when I was on Facebook in the very beginning, I listed Kudlow Report as my favorite show. So you can't say I'm like any like Kudlow derangement syndrome over here. But I've watched.
That's the thing, Kudlow derangement syndrome.
I'm sure if I didn't have that proviso and people see me attacking Kudlow, that then the camera can't focus on it over there, but there is a signed "Make America Great Again" hat that I bought before the election, thinking Trump was going to win, and I don't know really too many people that were willing to stick their neck out like that. Anyways, with that said, Larry Kudlow, every time there's a Republican in there, completely basically becomes a team player, takes away everything that he initially believed to basically support the team. And so this is a case for what was it in like the late January, early February, when they had the State of the Union, and we said, we will never be a socialist nation. So it looks like we're going straight from socialism right into communism, just bypassing it. And and it's just sad to see. I mean, even guys like Rand Paul the other day were up there saying that there's basically that the Republicans in the Senate are pretty much like the Bernie bros, I think was his exact quote.
That's why I don't understand why people don't love Trump. Like the left doesn't love Trump. He's literally what the left was 10 years ago, basically. The left have gone further left, but the right has gone further left as well. So it's like I'm just confused.
And he was a registered Democrat like 10 years ago, so or maybe it was like 17 or 18 years ago. Anyways, yeah, it's just when it comes to the housing, I mean, one other thing, I've got another book over there sitting on the shelf called The Demographic Cliff by Harry Dent, and in that book it talks about people's average the most amount of spending occurs when someone is age 46. Then you take a look at the baby boomers. I believe that the baby boom I think it started in I think it started in 1946. You add 46 to 1946, you get 1992 when Bill Clinton was coming in, and that's so you get this huge wave of next 20 something years of all these baby boomers coming into their peak earning years. Well, now those baby boomers are now the oldest ones are, I don't know, about like 72, 73 years old. And so now they're at the point where they're forced to take money from their retirement accounts. Well, actually this year they're not because of the pandemic. They suspended that. But anyways, if they're not, very few people are in the position of being able to suspend that because they need the money. So if you're forced to sell, you're forced to sell. Doesn't matter. I mean, it's a good time now because at least the market's back up. But you take a look at those demographic factors of having all these older people who have homes that are way bigger than they need. They have homes that cost way more money, and they would rather extract the equity out of their homes to be able to live because they have to live. And so that's going to create downward pressure on housing prices as they go to sell it to who? Like me, the millennials. Whereas, most millennials don't have very good jobs, or they've got jobs in the gig factory. And so then they're self-employed, and we're self-employed. It's harder to actually, get the credit to be able to, afford a home. You're probably going to see more like multi-generational type homes as people start living back in with their parents and never make it outside of their mom's basement. And so I'm not saying like, in real estate, it's always, hyper localized. So if you know what you're doing in your area and you can create your own little monopoly man situation and, being able to, become, the person that's collecting rent. So sort of like a, Robert Kiyosaki cash flow, you can still make it work. But a lot of people, when it comes to just like the overall macro 100,000 foot view, there are some troubling signs. And I think the most troubling sign is the demographics of having this huge baby boom generation that the only generation that's bigger than that right now is the millennials. But the millennials, I'm at the, Josh is probably more towards the middle of it. I'm towards the oldest millennials. I hate, referring to myself. I never refer to myself as a millennial, but technically I meet that.
It started in 1980, I think, millennials, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes it's like 82, but I mean, I'm 86, so I mean, I'm probably right the older.
86 years old. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But I mean, so here's the thing, Tim. A lot of people will say, well, what else can Trump do? I mean, what else is he supposed to do? Well, I mean, like, first of all, not destroying the economy, and I'm not blaming Trump for this, but I mean, like, just not destroying the economy with a lockdown that was based on a complete lie. And I got to back that up quickly. So obviously we were told that 3.5% to 7% of people would die from the coronavirus. Then we find out that it's actually, according to the CDC's recent study itself, 0.26%. And if you take out nursing homes, 0.2%. If you take out people over 50, it's 0.1%. And if you consider all asymptomatic cases, it's 0.04%. And if you consider all people, and that's just if you have it, considering all people together, it's 0.002%. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's less than, in many cases, the flu. Now, people will say there's more deaths, but the guy who created the test himself said that it doesn't actually test for coronavirus. So you have a bunch of faulty numbers. So maybe 1 in 10 of those people actually had the COVID-19 that was clearly created in a lab in Wuhan, China. So again, bringing it back here from Event 201 and going forward, we have Dr. Fauci, who heads the Institute for Allergies and Infectious Diseases, who got millions and millions and millions of dollars in U.S. government grants to study the coronavirus in bats, which was 96% similar to the novel coronavirus, at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which the World Health Organization refuses to investigate in their investigations into the origins of coronavirus. No corruption there at all. And keep in mind that when we're looking at that study done at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, including Dr. Fauci, they were looking into ways to spread it to humans, and we're supposed to sit here and say that's a huge coincidence that it just happened to end in October 2019, right before this breakout happened, right before they destroyed the global economy, using a crisis to the best of their ability. Never let a crisis go to waste, and we are witnessing that right now. So I'm sorry to get into the conspiracy stuff here, but I mean, come on.
The Fed comes in and buys all the corporate bonds when 9 days before I was giving a speech at Anarchapulco talking about how the corporate bond market was poised to blow up. It just needs one black swan to have the whole thing, and the Fed's going to have to come in and start buying these bonds 9 days before.
And then they shut down all these people's businesses, but allow you to go to Walmart while shutting down the small chain stores or the family stores. I mean, come on. They were clearly trying to monopolize, and they come in as a solution to the monopolization by monopolizing more. It's what government does best. Create a problem, come in as a solution when you see fear. So it's a Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, repeat for eternity in a circle. And on top of that, you have everyone getting kicked out of their homes or seizing private property under the guise of helping people. So basically, it's full-on communism at this point, and it's worldwide. You can't even escape it. It's like every country in the world. It's a prison planet. I've looked into every government mandate in the world as far as travel restrictions go. Every single country in the world, even the ones that didn't lock down in their own countries, are stopping people from other countries from coming in. And you might say, well, that's responsible. Responsibility isn't a collective thing. The very definition of responsibility is individualistic. That's the whole premise of freedom itself. Responsibility isn't collective. Collective responsibility is better defined as slavery. It's some other people deciding what's best for you, and in a collective enforcing that on you. And look what we've seen now. Way more people are going to die from the shutdowns. As we've been reporting on since January, we said that would happen if they did shut it down. And at that time, they said, no one's going to shut everything down. No one's going to force quarantine anyone. I was saying in January that they would. And here we are, months later. I said that we'd see a second wave shutdown that they're going to unleash on us. They're going to blame it on, well, we can't, if we don't, stay inside, we're going to hurt children, etc. They're already trying to push that narrative already. I mean, it's just
New York State. I mean, I just left New York, actually, the day I left New York banned people from coming from Arizona, or else you had to go into a quarantine. That was like 3 weeks ago. So I flew in there. It was fine. I leave there. The day I leave there, they banned people from coming from Arizona and Texas, and I think Florida. So 3 states. Then it got up to like 11 states, then up to 22 states. I think it's at 39 states now. So it's only, so pretty soon it's gonna be like the opposite of Hotel California. You can leave, but you can't come back in. And my grandparents were into contact with somebody who had corona or just tested positive. So now the contact tracers are telling them you can't go outside, and now they have to do all these special logs and be
And keep in mind, like, and what I'm getting at really in the long run here is that when people say, well, what was Trump supposed to do? What do you expect him to do? Well, what do you expect would happen if you shut down everything? If you destroyed everyone's jobs? Everyone's on borrowed time right now. By December, January, February, all these small businesses that are still around now are going to run out of cash, and they're going to be gone. And there's more unemployment, more people who can't pay into the economy, more people that can't pay other businesses, so those will go under too. I mean, and they're printing so much money into the stock market, and eventually that's going to reach the hands of the public, and that's going to lead to inflation. I mean, it's the most disastrous policy I could ever imagine. If we're ever going to centralize things, that's specifically the worst case scenario.
Yeah, and then, I mean, getting back to Trump, my first ever podcast, I would invite you guys over if you want to go to my channel. It's The Liberty Advisor. You can find that on YouTube, and then inside of there you'll find a link to the podcast, because don't bank on this being on YouTube forever, us being on YouTube forever. But if you want to find my podcast, it's up there. And the very first episode, this one was audio only. The rest of them, almost all of them are video. But the audio only one, this is the week he was elected, said that basically the worst thing, like you could elect Jesus, I think was the quote that I used, and he's not going to be able to stop what's coming right now because it's already built up into the system. You go back to July 2015, Trump was talking about the stock market is a big, fat, ugly bubble. And I said the worst thing for him to do would be to continue business as usual at the Federal Reserve, blow up the bubble even bigger, and then have the Democrats then pull the credit from him. And I even gave this reference in 2016, referencing Andrew Jackson when he was screwed by Nicholas Biddle, who was their second central bank president at the time, who pulled the credit from the country and then collapsed everything. So then that way Andrew Jackson would get the blame. Jackson was the last person to get rid of the central bank in America. And so unfortunately, Donald Trump pushed the easy button. The easy button was, let's just have the Fed just keep expanding. And he criticized the Fed, but he's criticizing the Fed for all the wrong reasons. He criticized Janet Yellen in 2016 and Hillary Clinton and Obama in 2016, saying that Janet Yellen is doing political things to help Hillary get elected and to make it so that way Obama can just worry about golfing all day. And he was right. But then he came in and then wanted the Fed to do the same things that he was criticizing. And this was also talked about in the Anarcho-Poco presentation that I gave, and a year before at the Anarcho-Zona presentation that I gave, where I also then reference how, you know, it was like 20 times that Trump called the unemployment numbers fake. And so he was echoing things that, you know, guys like Josh and myself have been saying the entire time. But then once all of a sudden it got to the point where he could use the narrative to then become, you know, the good guy, that look at me, look at everything I've done, like the narcissist that he is. And again, I have a hat that I spent money on before the election that's signed by Donald Trump, thinking that he was going to win, and supported him, and used to have a life-size cutout of Donald Trump. And my daughter was born on his first day in office, and I was wearing a Trump shirt. So I'm not Trump derangement syndrome either, but I think that he's got a 0% chance of winning. Unfortunately, now we've got way less freedoms. We've got the Federal Reserve is twice the size. They're coming in, buying up corporate bonds, coming up buying junk bonds, doing all this stuff that they, you know, was our worst nightmare, you know, that even Obama didn't do, that even Osama Ben Bernanke didn't do. And now we have to have, you know, now I'm, you know, called like a libtard or something because I don't like it. Well, guess what? Because, you know, not saying that people watching this video, because, you know, our viewers are smarter than that, but, you know, there's a lot of people out there who or criticizing guys like Josh and I. Well, it's you guys are the ones who didn't hold him to the fire and allowed all this stuff to fester. And I'm literally giving it a 0% chance of him winning at this point.
Not you guys watching, but you know what we're talking about. Yeah, and I want to
Italian, so I say you guys. And
hey, but hey, also I want to point out, like I did an interview with Stephen Moore, who's one of the top advisors to Donald Trump, economic advisors to Donald Trump, about a year ago, and I questioned him about a bunch of this stuff. I've been right about pretty much everything I questioned him on in the video, and he was wrong about basically every answer he gave me. And he was known, Stephen Moore is known as the Fed critic, a big Fed critic. By that, they don't central plan in the way he wants them to central plan. So that's how they call him a Fed critic. And
then they tried making him a Fed governor, and then I believe that because of all of his Fed critics, they wouldn't let him become a governor. But yeah, they tried to shoehorn him.
Apparently, there's some women that came out against him, so they canceled him actually getting the position. That came out about a week before we did the interview, but I wanted to focus on, you know, the more macro, more important stuff. And also, I mean, we've been right versus the Fed, versus Janet Yellen, Ben Bernanke, and Jerome Powell, and all their statements in the last year, all the things, all their predictions. We've been much better than them on the prediction side of things.
Pay us $300,000 to give a speech at your dinner. I mean, we've been way more accurate than Ben Bernanke, who that's just like a payoff through, I forgot, like either Citadel or whatever he's, you know, grifting off of right now. But yeah, I mean, why is that guy worth whatever he's, you know, $300,000 a speech? You're not hearing anything useful out of it anyways. You go back to all his old stuff, and it was all wrong. You know, same thing with Janet Yellen, same thing with all these people. And it'll be interesting. And Jerome Powell, I mean, like the day I got off the Trump train was the day he picked Jerome Powell. I was talking about this guy's an absolute snake. This guy is a swamp creature. This guy is basically a disciple of Janet Yellen. We're basically continuing business as usual, and I knew that it was game over. And then I was criticized, 5D chess, QAnon says this and QAnon says that, and it's like, well, you know, first off, it's like my initials are trust the plan, TTP, and like I don't trust the plan. Second off, I've been probably way more accurate than even Q on this stuff. And when you're going, I mean, how many times have I been told that Trump's going to shut down the Fed or Trump's going to end the Fed on this date, going back 3 years ago, and now we're looking at the Fed's way bigger. Everyone laid it down, and
because everyone's sitting on their hands. Everyone's complacent. Everyone's being apathetic under the guise of doing something because they're supporting something that they think will save them from themselves or save them from this beast that we're dealing with in Washington, D.C. And that's not Trump. This is the idea of government, the organized crime racket we call government, which will always find a way to get people, even the most viciously militant anti-government people, to sit on their hands. And look at what they've done. They've perfectly done just that. Another reason why we need to be standing up and be louder than ever.
But Trump was coming into a impossible situation. Just unfortunately, I like a lot of and he's been given more crap than anyone. And the fact that he's even still standing and still alive is kind of amazing to me. So I'm not Trump derangement syndrome. I like a lot of the stuff he says, but there's other stuff that fundamentally he tried. It's not an easy message to go to people with the message of freedom and go to the message of, you know, ending the Federal Reserve. Nobody cares about that, unfortunately. And so Ron Paul got people to read big economic treatises, and with Donald Trump, he's just playing to this base of, you know, how can I? Because I mean, the average person's at like a 7th grade reading level, or maybe it's not even 7th grade, but anyways, it's very low reading level, and he's smart enough to know that and plays to that. But, you know, you play with fire, you get burned. He's been playing with fire, inviting all these swamp creatures in there, inviting guys like Gary Cohn, who was the first economic advisor who Kudlow replaced. That guy was a Hillary Clinton carbon tax supporter, also a huge Hillary Clinton bundler, and then also worked for Goldman Sachs. And it's like, I worked my ass off to get Donald Trump elected, to put in, to have an entire cabinet full of Goldman Sachs people, and to have Gary Cohn, Mr. Carbon Tax, coming in. Like I did not work my butt off to have Gary Cohn be the economic advisor. And then now I love a guy like Larry Kudlow, but then he goes in there and then sells out and does all the economic steroids.
He does literally the opposite of everything he talked about for years on his show. I mean, literally the opposite. Every single interview and every single show he'd ever done is the opposite. He's been called on it multiple times. I remember I think it was Chris Wallace called him on it on Fox a couple years ago when he was first announced to come in. He was called on it, and he said, look, we are allowed to change our opinions over time. What, after like 40 years, you just suddenly get a job, they pay you a bunch, and they give you this credit of working alongside the president, and suddenly your whole ideology just changes like that? I mean, come on.
It's probably not even the payment. It's probably like the status symbol of being, he gets to go to all the nice parties and gets to, do all the coolest things in Washington, and gets to go to the nice country clubs and go golfing. And it's probably more of that stuff that he's in it for.
People get tired after years and years of talking about this stuff and trying to, do the right thing. Then they hit like 70, 80 years old, and they're like, obviously nobody cares. Let me just
Alan Greenspan was basically sounded like Josh and I when he was in his 20s and 30s, and then he gets in there, he's like, well, I had to go in there and do things to kind of screw people, because if I didn't do it, it'd be somebody else that'd be doing it way worse. And so that was his, Machiavellian, mental gymnastics.
Gotta love that argument. Anyway, this video has gone on too long, and we were talking about housing. Before we close this off, how long do we have until this ticking time bomb of the housing market kind of blows up?
Man, I'm sort of surprised it hasn't already blown up. But I mean, getting back to the demographics, I mean, you just have, not to mention, people out of work, people, you're getting different unemployment stuff. But I mean, who knows? If you see a complete collapse of the dollar, then you could see housing prices actually, potentially skyrocket in that type of environment. But overall, I think you can't run the demographic issues, but if you priced it in Bitcoin, it might, there'd be massive deflation. If you price it in dollars, it could be massive inflation. Price it in gold, it could be massive deflation in the housing prices. And so that's why you want to take your assets and kind of shift them in different places, because you could, and again, not financial advice, but you could go from having a gold and silver position that skyrockets, and then you use that to come in and buy the house that you just sold. I'm right now in a townhome that I'm renting right now because I think right now is a terrible time to buy a home. That's for me, and maybe it's not if, I'm in a different position than other people right now. But if I had a family and I wanted to be, be somewhere for 10 years, I was in a spot I wanted to be forever, I had my forever home, or had a homestead, or was already self-sufficient, that's one thing. But, if you're in a house that you don't want to be there for the next 3 to 5 years, I would seriously consider right now, maybe trying to rent. Now, again, that's my own, kind of take on it. But right now, I think it is a disastrous time to buy, unless you want to have your forever home. Then you can, lock in a super low rate right now. I don't know, it might even be below 3 on a mortgage rate. And if you can afford that, and you've got income coming in, and you like the area, and you've got friends and family and community, then yeah, go ahead and maybe do that. But everyone's gonna have different circumstances. There's not just one vanilla yes or no answer to this. But I think in the grander scheme of things, just macro picture, the demographics, and the fact that everyone's losing their jobs right now, I think those are two of the biggest double whammies that you could possibly have to have a big downward negative pressure on housing prices. But who knows? Maybe the Fed comes in and gives everybody $1 million, and then housing prices goes up. So I mean, I don't want to give them any ideas, because it sounds like they always do. Whatever is the worst thing possible, and helicopter money is probably on its way, and so that's going to distort things. The government's is also going to make it worse, but their distortions are, so I'm trying to predict based off their distortions, but absent their distortions, yeah, it would have already gone down by now.
Right. Well, anyway, I appreciate everyone watching us. We will continue to break down this issue as it elapses. Obviously, we are far from this being over anytime soon, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. Yeah, grab the popcorn. That's right. Well, anyway, make sure to hit that like button, share this on social media to help us get around the shadow banning. Join our newsletter at www.imban.com. All you have to do is put in your email. We won't spam you. It's very important to help us actually be able to contact you. And of course, join us on Flote.app, BitChute, Minds, and LBRY. You can find Tim and become a client of Tim's at thelibertyadvisor.com. All is linked below in the description and the comments of this video. And of course, we are viewer funded completely.
Yeah,
so
they're gonna have like a free rent payment or mortgage payment with the COVID vaccine. That's gonna be my prediction. There's gonna be some sort of UBI ties to a vaccine, and then you get like 2 months free rent or something.
Definitely housing relief. I mean, they're not going to let 1 in 10 people go homeless. They are going to, the banks are going to buy up the houses, then the government's going to take over these properties. They're going to control 10% of the properties in the country. It'll be completely communism, and then they'll give away free houses, and they'll pretend that they weren't totally the ones that forced people out of their homes in the first place. So yeah, obviously they're going to find some way around this. But anyway, as I was saying, we are completely viewer funded, so make sure to check those links for ways that you can fund us. Patreon, GoFundMe, Subscribestar. Obviously, you can pledge in crypto on Flote. We have Cointree where you can pledge or you can send money in different cryptocurrencies, including Monero. And of course, we have our Bitcoin address below. All of those things help immensely. So anyway, we will see you guys soon. We won't be on YouTube much longer, so make sure to check back whenever you can and join us on those other platforms. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Tim Picciott signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. My friends, it is go time. We are completely demonetized on YouTube, and we depend on the viewer to stay alive and spread the message of freedom and truth. So check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, anything you guys could do to help keep independent media alive helps enormously in helping spread this message to the masses. So make sure to check those links. Donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen or below. We really appreciate anything you could do to keep us alive. You could check those links below for Cointree as well, where you can find other cryptocurrencies that you can donate and keep WAM alive. Find us on Flote.app, FLOTE.app, as well as BitChute and LBRY and Minds. We're on all the other platforms. We are leaving YouTube soon, so make sure to find us at those sites because it's the only way we can keep talking to you, the masses, the great people that actually care about the future of free humanity. Also, join our new newsletter at www.imband.com. Anything helps at this point, guys. We need to support free information online. This is the most difficult time in our history, and it takes a lot of hard work to keep our message alive in the face of great evils that have taken over the propaganda news on television as well as on YouTube, where YouTube decides what you can or cannot see. We need your help, my friends. So I really appreciate anything you guys can do. Check those links. There's many ways you can help. Until next time, though, thanks, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.
Thank you.